I'm Ms. Webb, the librarian. How can I help you? I'm reading a great one right now. This is the story of Marjane Satrapi's childhood growing up in Iran during the Islamic Revolution and the Iran-Iraq War. It's called Persepolis, and it's a graphic novel. I think you might like it. Do you want me to tell you about it? Persepolis. It's the name of the ancient capital of Persia. It's also the name of the graphic novel by Marjane Satrapi. Yes, Satrapi herself is both the author and the illustrator. This book is great because it helps to bridge the gap between cultures created by distance, general misunderstanding, and media bias. Her iconic characters are extremely helpful in helping us get past the prejudice of the way people look and realize that even though we are different cultures, we really have a lot of similarities. Many of her stories share the commonalities of childhood, for instance, wanting the attention of your parents. In one scene, Marjane goes into her parents' living room and wants to play Monopoly. However, her parents, tired from a full day of demonstrating against the king, tell her, "Now is not the time." She responds, "It is never the time." Because she wanted to spend time with her parents, and they were spending so much time demonstrating, she decided that she would volunteer to go with them. She tells her parents, "For a revolution to succeed, the entire population must support it." Of course, they tell her no, because she is too young and it is too dangerous. The army had a tendency to shoot at the protesters. I think we all heard this from our parents before. Well, maybe not the part about being shot at. However, many of Satrapi's stories of childhood were very different from what most of us would have experienced. She did grow up during the Islamic Revolution and the Iran-Iraq War. She tells the story about her mother hanging heavy black curtains in their living room to keep the family's activities secret. Things like owning video cassettes, owning decks of cards, owning chess sets were forbidden. One of her neighbors received 75 lashes for being in possession of items such as these. However, they also lived their life behind the black curtain. They continued to have their parties. They continued to listen to their music. She even had her parents smuggle in an Iron Maiden poster for her when she was young, because that was one of her favorite bands. However, many of her family members and friends eventually moved away because of the oppression of the regime. Her own uncle was imprisoned and executed because his outspoken beliefs were very different from that of the regime. At one point, she thought it couldn't get any worse after the death of her uncle, but that is when the Iran-Iraq War started. Their neighborhood was bombed once. Luckily, nothing happened to their own building, but their neighbor's building was completely destroyed, and her 14-year-old neighbor was killed. There's more. I'll read an excerpt.
One day after school, "Hi, Mom." "Hi. Go and look in the guest room. There's a surprise for you." "Grandma!" "Are you leaving already?" "No, I'm just changing." "Mom told me that Grandpa had been in prison." How was school?" "It must have been very hard on you." "Oh, my back. Can I help you?" "No, I'm okay. As you say, it was very hard for me, but also for your mother and for your uncles. The Shah's father took everything we owned. I lived in poverty." "What? You mean you were poor too?" "Oh, yes. So poor that we had only bread to eat. I was so ashamed that I pretended to cook so that the neighbors wouldn't notice anything." Mom is cooking something good." "Come on, she's just boiling water again." To survive, I took in sewing, and with leftover material, I made clothes for the whole family. Look how well dressed we all are in this photo. Why isn't Grandpa there? Was he in prison? Yes. The father of the Shah was very tough, but his son was 10 times worse. Even worse? You know, my child, since the dawn of time, the dynasties have succeeded each other, but the kings always kept their promises. The Shah kept none. I remember the day he was crowned, he said, "I am the light of the Aryans. I will make this country the most modern of all time. Our people will regain their splendor." He even went to the grave of Cyrus the Great, who ruled over the ancient world. "Cyrus, rest in peace. We are looking after Persia." All of the country's money went into ridiculous celebrations of the 2,500 years of dynasty and other frivolities, all of this to impress heads of state. The population couldn't have cared less. I'm so happy that there's finally a revolution because the Shah— I'm hungry. I bought you some books. You will see why the people are revolting. She won't tell me about Grandpa. Your daughter says she is hungry. Well, she has to wait for her father. Photo. He'll be back soon. Who? My father had gone to take some photos of the demonstration, but this time he was very late. He took photos every day. It was strictly forbidden. He had even been arrested once, but escaped the last minute. We waited for him for hours. There was the same silence as before a storm. I thought that my father was dead, that they had shot him.
Would you like to check out this book and see? If you like that one, then there's a second one called Persepolis 2, The Story of a Return. This one tells about her experience in Austria. Her parents sent her to Austria to go to school from ages 14 to 18 because they were worried that her outspokenness might get her in trouble in Iran. So she goes to Austria by herself. She eventually gets into drugs and ends up homeless for a while, so that part's kind of rough. But you might like this story if you want to know more about what happens to her after she leaves home. After you finish the book, there's also a movie.